to my computer in case we can upload it to the web courses. All right. So again, we are going to cover logic models and also research questions in this specific Zoom session. Let's begin with the assignment that is due this week, which is the program logic model and agency description. So this is the guidelines. Let me share my screen. So are you guys able to see my screen? Yes. All right, great. Now, so this is this week's assignment, program logic model and agency description. Now, what is expected from you is provide a diagram, and then in a few sentences, you're going to briefly describe the program. And then again, in a brief paragraph, you're going to describe where the program is being implemented, the settings, and provide more information about the program. That's what is expected. Just follow these guidelines, provide this information, and you should be fine. The most important part of this assignment is the diagram, okay? This worth 7 points out of 10. So having a good diagram is really crucial. Now, how we are going to create a good logic model diagram? I will show you an example and we will talk over an example. So this is a good example of a logic model, okay? And you have this under the modules as a logic model example. So in here, as you see, we have inputs, activities, outputs, short-term and long-term goals. And now we will dive deeper into what are these different components. Inputs are literally the resources that you need to implement that program. What do you need to do that program? Okay. Do you need a space? Do you need staff, psychologists, material? What kind of material you need? All of this will go under the inputs section. And then you will have activities. What kind of activities will take place under that program? Okay. So educational models, workshops, pre and post surveys, mental health sessions. What are the activities that will take place under that specific program? And then we are moving to the outputs. Outputs are about the numbers, number of trainings, number of students trained, number of students screened, number of participants, number of people receive the training. All of these will go under the outputs. Again, it's usually about the numbers, outputs. The after those activities, how many people you reached out, how many students how many people received the intervention, how many meals distributed, etc. And then you will have short-term goals. Okay, we had these activities, we had these inputs with these resources, we did some activities and we have some outputs, but what were the short-term outcomes and long-term outcomes, or short-term goals and long-term goals? So what was the short-term outcomes, like short-term change, immediate change that you will see after the program or you expect to see after the program? What are those? So you are going to put them under the short-term goals. Again, short-term is usually the things that you are going to see right after implementing the program. Long-term is the outcomes that you will observe over time, like community has lower rates of suicide. That's not going to immediately happen. It's going to take some time, maybe years, right, to observe that. So those are long-term goals. We need to make that distinction between short-term and long-term goals or outcomes. All right, now, when you are choosing your program, it could be a program that's already in place, or it could be a hypothetical program that you would always want to implement. Okay, that's up to you. I will leave it up to you. The only thing that I'm going to pay attention is It should be social work related and it should be realistic. As long as you have these two components, it's social work related and it's realistic, you're fine. You're good to go. Okay, so you are going to choose your program based on your interest. Again, it could be an existing program or it could be a hypothetical program that's not in place that you are planning to do, and you can just implement that. You can just propose that implementation for that program. So again, in a good logic model, we have these components: inputs, activities, outputs, short-term and long-term goals. Briefly, inputs are the resources that you need to implement that program. Activities are the activities that are taking place under those programs. That includes workshops, sessions. Outputs are usually related with numbers. How many meals you distributed, how many students got trained, how many trainings you provided, etc. And short-term goals are the immediate change that you will see right after the program implementation. Long-term goals are the things that you will see in a long run, like the suicide rates drop in the community. All right. Do we have any questions about the logic model? Again, that's what is expected from you. You're going to provide a diagram like this. You can use this template, or you can create another template. You can create another template with columns. It doesn't have to be this fancy, but this is also could be used. Or if you find another template for logic model, you can use that one. Do we have
I
any
have a
questions?
question.
Yes.
My question was, I started doing the assignment,
Mhm.
but I would like you to maybe look at it to see whether or not I made great progress or do I need to revamp some items? Do you mind me
Sure.
sharing what my program is to get an
And
idea or
if you feel comfortable sharing, we can look at it. Or if you want, let's keep the feedback part to the end. Let me
okay.
finish the introduction part first, and then talk about the research questions, and then I can provide feedback, and the students who wants to stay for the feedback part can stay. That way, we don't want to like take anybody's time who doesn't want to listen to that. Is that sounds good, Chalice?
Yep, that sounds good. Thanks.
Okay, let's dive into the research question part and cover that, and then I can get anything that you would like to get feedback. We can just look at it together. All right, now the research questions. So for this week, that's it. For this week, you are going to do the logic model. You are going to follow the guidelines and describe the agency, provide the information that is needed under the guidelines, and that will be it for the assignment. Next week. Next week, we will have an introduction literature review assignment. And when we are doing that introduction literature review assignment, we are going to have a research question. Research question is the most important part of this proposal. Again, because anytime you're stuck somewhere, you are going to turn back to that research question, and that will guide you the way. Okay, so let's say I'm stuck in the sampling strategy section. I'm going to turn back to my research question, and that should help me to find the answer. So a good research question will guide you the way when you are writing this proposal. It's crucial. It's important. That's why I will just briefly talk about the research questions and how to create your research question. And what I want you to do is I want you to think about it from this week to the next week, how you can create your own research question. But one thing I want you to pay attention to, how you can make this measurable, okay? When we are talking about specifics of the research question, I will tell you how to make it more measurable. But right now, please consider this when you are creating your research question to make it measurable. Have that in your mind when you're thinking about your research question. Now, let's look at the research question components and research question examples. All right. So you have this slide under the modules. It's PowerPoint presentation. In here, you will have examples. But before those examples, a good research question will have 4 important components that called PICO. Let me make this bigger so you can see it. I'm looking for. So you have 4 components. PICO. P is the population. Who is in your population? Okay. Who are your participants? When you are going to do this program, who are going to be the target population? So you need to clearly define that. What I want you to do now, I want you to write, take notes as a population, intervention, comparison, and outcome. Write these 4 components and then start thinking about who is going to be in your population. What is your intervention? Is it your program? Is it a specific part of the program? What is the intervention exactly that you are going to evaluate here? You may or may not have comparison. Sometimes you do have a comparison, sometimes you don't. If you have a comparison, you are going to put it in your research question. If you don't have a comparison, that's fine. You don't have to put comparison, okay? Sometimes you are not comparing your intervention with anything, but sometimes you do compare with another intervention or with the intervention that is already in place, okay? So if you have comparison, you need to put it in your research question. If you don't have to. And what is your outcome? Okay, what is the change that you would like to see at the end of this program? What is the change that you are going to evaluate if you observe this change or not after the program? So that is the last component. Again, population, intervention, comparison you may or may not have, and outcome. Those components are important for a research question. Now let's look at the examples. So in the first example, in pre-licensure nursing students in the clinical settings. So it tells you who will be the population, right? In this population, does the use of problem-based learning, that's my intervention, I'm asking if the problem-based learning versus traditional model of learning. So I'm comparing the problem-based learning with the traditional model of learning. Traditional model is my comparison. Improve critical thinking. Critical thinking is the outcome that you are going to look in this example. Okay, critical thinking. But outcome is really important. When you are writing the outcome, again, if you remember at the beginning of the session, I asked you to make sure that you think about how you are going to measure it. Okay. So when you are choosing the outcome, that's when you need to be careful because you need to think about how you are going to measure that outcome. If you are choosing something like depression, anxiety, there are already scales that are measuring those components, right? There is back depression inventory, for example, that you can propose using. You can just provide the brief information that's already out there in the literature. You will just take that information, paraphrase it, and put it to your paper. That's all you need to do if you have pre-existing measure. If you don't have a pre-existing measure, then you need to come up with a measurement. So having a pre-existing measure will make your job easier. So think about that. Again, when you are choosing the outcome, think about how you are going to measure it. If you are choosing something like depression, anxiety, PTSD, there are measures out there. Independent living, there are measures out there. Academic success, there are measures out there. Think about that. Okay, so you have time from this week to next week to think about what will be your outcome that you want to observe that change. Okay, what is your program is addressing to? Okay, when you are creating that program, think about all these components. Think about your intervention. Think about the outcome that you would like to see, observe the change, and think about the population that you are going to serve. Okay. All right. Let's look at other examples. We have some other examples. So as you see in this example, is CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, effective in reducing PTSD symptoms among military veterans injured by IEDs? Now, in this example, who is our population? Military veterans injured by IEDs is the population. Okay. Among this population, I'm doing this study. What is my intervention? My intervention is cognitive behavioral therapy. Is cognitive behavioral therapy effective? If you are evaluating a program that you created or that's already in place, you can just put that program too. Is ABC program effective in reducing anxiety rates among pregnant women with ABC features, for example? Is CBT effective in reducing PTSD symptoms? PTSD symptoms are the outcomes. Okay, we are going to look. Reducing PTSD symptoms is the outcome that this research question is focusing on. Okay, so you see the three components here. You see the population, military veterans injured by IEDs. You see the intervention, cognitive behavioral therapy is the intervention, and you see the outcome, which is post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms, reducing post-traumatic stress disorder symptoms. Again, that's a good, clear research question, right? So you need to make sure that you have these components, at least population, intervention, and outcome. And when you are writing these components, again, when you are writing the especially outcome, make sure that you think about how you are going to operationalize that in the future, how you are going to measure that outcome. Okay. And if there is a pre-existing measure, that's great. Then when you are writing your methodology section, when you are gonna talk about your measurement, you can just, let's say you are doing the depression, you can just say that I'm gonna use back depression inventory, and it consists of this many items. It's measured in these ways, in a 5-point Likert scale or whatever you find, whatever information you find about that specific scale, just provide that information, provide maybe 1 or 2 example items, and then you're good to go. However, if you do not have pre-existing measure, then you need to come up with a way to measure that specific construct that you are going to use as an outcome. Is that clear? Again, this is just a preview of how to create a research question. It will sync from this week to next week. What I want you to do is, I want you to write to a paper, to a Word document, population, intervention. If you have comparison, you can write comparison. If you don't, you don't have to. And then outcome. And try to identify each of these components that will take place in your study. Who you want to do this study with. Try to be a little specific. And then in the intervention, you can use your program. You can use a component of your program. It could be a component like cognitive behavioral therapy in that program with the groups, for example, or some other intervention. Okay, it could be just an intervention. And then the outcome, which outcome you would like to see that is being impacted by, or what is going to be impacted by your intervention. When you provide that intervention, are you expecting to reduce the depression rate or anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, increase academic success, increase independent living? What is your target that you would like to accomplish, and how you are going to measure it? Is there a pre-existing measure that is already measuring that is already measuring the depression rates that will give you this, or that is already measuring anxiety rates, post-traumatic stress disorder rates that's already in place that you can just take and use So that's usually how we are doing these proposals. We usually are taking a sample, right, from the population. If we are using a group design, we can divide it into the two groups. Of course, what I'm talking about now is for the future weeks. So do not get overwhelmed, do not get confused. I'm just giving you a trailer of what is coming. You don't have to get stressed. Just when you are creating your research question, think about those future steps. So the things will be easier for you in the future steps. So again, we are gonna choose a sample from the population, take that sample, and if we are using a group design, let's say we have two groups, we are gonna separate this sample into two groups, experiment group and control group, for example, and then we are gonna look in that outcome is our experiment group, which is the group that received our treatment or intervention, is performing better than our control group, which is the group that is receiving either comparison or nothing. Okay, so we are gonna weight that. If let's say we are measuring the depression rates, we are gonna measure the depression rates of everybody in the experiment group and in the control group, and then we will see if there is a significant difference between these two groups. And if there is, that will give us some clues about our program is effective, right? So I'm just giving you this information. That's for the future weeks. We are not going to do that now. And I will lecture you more and more when we are coming to that point. But I'm just giving you this to create uh, an imaginary road to where we are heading to. So when you are creating that research question, that's what you are going to do. You are going to turn back to your research question, and then based on your research question, it will be really easy for you to choose a sample because you already have a population in your sample. You know who is your population. It will be easy to choose a measurement because you already have an outcome, which is a construct that you are going to measure in your research question. So things will be relatively easy for you if you have a clear and good research question. I know this is kind of a lot, and you may get overwhelmed. Don't get overwhelmed. Just try to put those components together: population, intervention, outcome. Again, please, when you are choosing your outcome, think about how you are going to measure it. Think about a way to measure that outcome. And when you have these components, try to put them together in a question format, okay? And you have a bunch of examples, as you see here, as I show here, you have a bunch of different examples that you can see and mimic, but instead you're going to put your own components, right? You're going to put your own outcome, your own population, and then come up with a draft of a research question. And next week, when you come with those drafts, I am going to ask you to put, if that's again optional, that's voluntary. If you want to get my feedback, you're going to put those research question drafts to the chat box, and I will look at them and I will provide you with the feedback. If you don't want to get feedback in the chat box, you can send that to me with email or web courses before the Zoom date, and I can provide you with the feedback. It's either or, whichever you choose, whichever is more comfortable for you. All right. Now, do we have any questions about what we covered, like PICO components, population intervention, comparison, again optional, and outcome? Any questions about that?
I have a question
Yes.
about my program. So I did I have 4 programs that I'm looking into,
Mm-hmm.
and I think I'm going with one specifically because their website does give some background about like the rates and like recidivism,
Yes.
right? Okay. So, but my question is, am I going to be providing hypotheticals for the stuff that I don't have when it comes to my outcome. Like, while it gives me rates, what happens if I come along something that you're asking me to get specifics on and I don't have the specifics? Am I going to shoot out hypotheticals for that, or should I just jump that bridge when I get there and then discuss with you at that time? Because the first
So,
piece of I think I got.
so again, when you are writing these programs about these programs can be pre-existing, and you may or may not have all the information needed. But I want you to try to, if you are writing about a pre-existing program, please try to find the actual information if you think the information is available somewhere. If not, if it's not available somewhere, for example, you can predict the goal of that program, right? If that program is about providing mentoring to the youth, you can think about, oh, one of the goals could be academic success, increasing their academic success or increasing their self-confidence. So as long as it makes sense based on the content of the program and the goals of the program are aligning, I'm fine with it. But there must be some alignment. You cannot just say, I'm going to provide a mentoring program and then I'm going to measure something totally unrelated, right? Like I don't know, something that's not has nothing to do with the mentoring. Okay, so it must be connected. You need to know that intervention. You need to know that program. What is going on in that program? What kind of activities? Again, this could be hypothetical too. I'm not going to judge you to put some program that's not already in place. Let's say you had always a program in your head that you would like to implement. It could be that program that you are going to explain. These are the activities will take place. These are the specifics. As long as you have those framework in the paper, that will give me enough information about what is that program exactly and what is the goal of that program. And again, when you are thinking about the outcome, please think about how you are going to measure that outcome. Okay.
Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. But again, I'm not going to take points off if you do put something hypothetical, as long as it makes sense. Okay.
And then we'll have plenty of time to discuss with you between the live sessions or just email. Okay. All right. That works for me. Thank you.
Yes. Next week again, if you come up with a question, a draft of a question, we can talk about that, and I can provide further feedback.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Any other questions about research questions? How to create a research question?
I just wanted to clarify, in the future assignments, are we picking from one of the programs that we talked about or wrote about in our first assignment, or are we allowed to research others that we might be interested in?
You can change your program at this point. If you would like to change your program after the end of this week, after writing the logic models, you need to also change the previous material. For example, let's say you wanted to change your program next week when submitting introduction literature review. You thought, oh my God, the logic model that I did doesn't work for me now. I need to change this program. I need to go with something else. That's still okay. But what I want you to do is I want you to go back and create a logic model that will fit to your new program. Okay. So until week 3, you are allowed to change whatever you choose. You are allowed to choose your program, or you are allowed to create your hypothetical program until week 3. Under one condition, everything should be aligned, including the logic model. When you are submitting the final proposal, in the attachment, you will have a logic model too. So you need to make sure that everything is aligning to what you are doing as a final decision. Is that making sense? So you don't have to choose one
Yes.
of those
Yes.
3 programs. You can change that.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions? All right. So I hope that clarified some of the confusion. Again, the best way of writing those research questions are firstly identify the components of the research questions. So we need to first start thinking about who is going to be our population, what is going to be our intervention, what kind of outcome we are looking to observe that change, and how we are going to measure it. Are there a pre-existing measure to measure that? If not, how we can come up with the good measure that is measuring that construct. So when you are thinking about these components and creating a research question under the light of that, I'm sure it will be way easier for you to write this proposal. And again, I will try to be next to you whenever you're stuck. I will try to help, try to provide the feedback. Just let's be proactive. What I want you to do is I want you to make sure that you have enough time to do these assignments, because this is a very large assignment. Writing a whole proposal, we are talking about writing a whole proposal. This course is not easy, folks. I'm going to be honest with you. I will do my best to make it easier for you with these videos, Zoom sessions, providing feedback. You need to work with me. You need to make sure that you are managing that time well. You have enough time to write that assignment and ask for feedback when you're stuck. Okay? Are we good? Any questions? Any last minute feedback or anything that you would like to talk about before we are diving into the feedback section?
I'm sorry, Professor. So the question, I'm sorry, the program is something, can be something that we create, or is it an actual program?
Yes, both are accepted. It could be something, let's say I was always dreamed about having this program that's serving to the refugee population with their schooling needs or academic success needs, or refugee women's mental health, certain, maybe one component of mental health. You can choose, let's say, PTSD symptoms or their depression. I always wanted to have this program in place, or maybe specific, like pregnant refugee women's depression. That's what I would like to address. I would like to have a specific program that is targeting that. And these are the things that will take place. I will have workshops for those women. I will have sessions. That's what I will have. Maybe specific intervention. I will provide sessions that is group sessions with this CBT, right? Group cognitive behavioral therapy sessions. That's what I'm going to provide, and I'm going to see if that's effective, reducing their depression rates. That's my program. Or you can just call it ABC program. I'm going to look if that ABC program is effective on reducing their anxiety rates for refugee pregnant women. Maybe from specific place, you can make it even more specific, but do not make it too specific. Try to find a middle ground. Not too general. Try not to be very, very specific. That will make it hard to find the population, the sample for you guys. Clear? Again, you can create your own program. Just the limit is it must be related with social work. It must be realistic. That's all you have in the limit. If you have these 2 criteria, if it's realistic, related with social work, you're good to go. Okay. It will be fun. It will be something you're passionate about, and you're going to take that. You know, that's your program. You know it. So think about that. You know that program well because you designed it, or you know that program well because that was your interest. That was in the topic that you already have interest. And then you are just going to evaluate that. You will learn how to evaluate that program. Maybe in the future, when you are working in the agencies, there will be a program and you will be asked to evaluate that program. So having those skills is critically important at this point. Do we have any other questions before we are moving to the feedback part? Okay. Now I can provide specific feedback to the logic model examples if you have any. And if you want to stay during this time, you're welcome to. If you want to leave, again, you are welcome to do so, whichever you prefer. Okay, we can start. Whoever wants to share the screen, I'm just stopping. Just stopped sharing, and I'm activating. You guys can share your screen now so we can look at it together.
I just have, I guess, well, a quick question.
Mhm.
If we don't have an example for our logic model yet, that's something that we can reach out to you, like during this week to get feedback on.
Yeah, I mean, I will be happy to provide feedback. Do not send me your logic model on Saturday night or Sunday and ask for feedback, please, because I might not be available, like if you send it last minute, and I don't want you to sit and wait for hours for my feedback. Please try to send me, if you have an intention, try to send it to me before Thursday morning, so I can at least have Thursday and Friday to have a chance to look at it, because we have other schedules, we have other research going on, other conferences, meetings. I want to find time to provide you detailed feedback. So please try to send it before Thursday, and I promise I will try to make time to provide you feedback. Okay.
Sure. Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Anybody would like to go and share their draft to look at? Or if you prefer, you can just send it to me before Thursday. That's also okay, whichever you prefer. Cherish,
Hello.
yes.
Yes, I was trying to get more lighting. I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see it.